the script was amazing. As soon as I read it, I knew it was something special. The combination of Saoirse playing Mary and Josie directing, there was definitely a sense of girl power around this project. So many incredible women I already admire also were on board. Jenny Sherkor, Alex Byrne. It was not a character that I immediately gravitated towards, Elizabeth herself. The film and the project in general was very, very enticing. I really wanted to work with Saoirse. I met her personally, previously, and loved her the minute I met her. And I've watched her work for years and just think she's incredible. And then similarly, Josie, who's just, as soon as you talk to her, she's just so smart and has it's such an incredible perspective on this, a very relatable perspective on this story and relationship. So for all those reasons, I wanted to be a part of it. The only Yeah, I guess the short answer is I just didn't feel worthy of Elizabeth, and that made me initially pass on the project. I said, this is going to be an incredible movie, but I'm not the right actress to play. You should get someone else to play Queen Elizabeth. Someone else will be way better. And Josie was relentless, and she's like, no, I want it to be you. And I was like, can I be quite honest? Why? Like, why me? I can think of 10 other actresses who would do this better than I can. She said, no, you're thinking of her like a queen. I don't want you to play a queen. I want you to play a woman. And I thought, oh, well, yeah, I can do that. I definitely can do that. And then I fell in love with her, and I empathized with her, and I really felt for her. She to me had an extremely tragic life. Yeah, though my image previously had been, gilded halls and, you know, servants, and I guess I assumed that Elizabeth must have had a very easy life, a very cushioned, luxurious life, when in reality it was anything but. The film, of course, follows Mary, Queen of Scots' life, a period of her life, taking back her throne in Scotland, and the threat it then put on Queen Elizabeth I's throne in England, since Mary did have a rightful claim to the throne. It's a story of love and rebellion and conspiracies, and at the heart of it, a lot of really interesting relationships. Most notable for me, of course, is the relationship between Mary and Elizabeth, who were actually cousins, but also there were two women who, in a way, only could understood each other in a way that no one else could. They were in similar positions, going through some shared experiences, but ruling in two very different ways. I think history's really painted them as rivals, like one big cat fight, but I think they truly yearned, at least I believe Elizabeth really yearned for that shared experience, and that bond, that relationship, and there was just constantly men in the way conspiring to keep them apart and pit them against each other. Mary and Elizabeth's relationship was incredibly complicated because, on one hand, there was a yearning to find that bond and almost feel comforted by the fact that someone else understands the position you're in, and they had a very special sisterhood. There's many letters that kind of show you how intimate they really were, the way they speak to each other, very, very intimate way. At the same time, the mere survival of the other threatened their own. So there was constantly male advisors in their ear. For Elizabeth, particularly Cecil, their relationship's very interesting as well, but we can get to that in a minute. But, Cecil constantly in her ear, and people conspiring and warning them against Mary's success. I really enjoyed finding the inner conflict in Elizabeth, that on one hand, a part of her really wanted Mary to succeed, to show that you could rule with your heart and it work. I had a very special experience doing this with Josie, doing this with Deborah, doing this with Saoirse. When we're exploring women in powerful positions, women in leadership roles, it's obviously amazing to be able to do that with women who are in powerful positions, women who are in leadership roles. On top of that, obviously, they're just talented. I mean, gender aside, they're talented people. This movie's a big undertaking. You kind of need the best of the best to pull it off.
Absolutely.
So in our film, we depict a moment where Mary and Elizabeth actually meet, which by historical records never happened. Who knows, truly, because a lot of things were covered up and rewritten by all those conspiring court advisors. But it is mostly believed that they never met, though it's been depicted in a few stage plays, and I think it's just so fascinating because they were kept apart this whole time. It's so fascinating to explore what that conversation would have been. I think where it falls in their journey is a crucial thing to note, because I think by the time they do meet and finally come face to face, it's too late for Elizabeth. She's already kind of cut off her ties to humanity. She is the throne at that point, and I feel the tragedy in that situation is if they had met sooner, if they hadn't been held at bay and held away by these men and met at the beginning of the film, it would have been very different. There would have been a lot less bloodshed, perhaps. It was a deeply moving scene when we shot it. It was far more moving and emotional than I think any of us assumed or predicted it could be. In real life, we'd intentionally not seen each other. We'd been actually kept apart like we are in the movie on purpose. So we'd never seen each other in full hair, makeup, costume as each other's characters ever until the moment that the cameras were rolling, which isn't actually a very easy thing to do. There's like a lot of logistical reasons why that does not make sense when you're filming. But in this instance, they made a special effort under Josie's request that we don't see each other. You know, when one of us would enter the room, the other one would be let out another side and would be on one side. We're shooting like kind of in a forest. So one would be in that side, one would be the other. And then once they had the cameras set up, the first time we saw each other, it was just, it was the strangest experience thing I think I've ever had on a set. It completely overtook everything. I totally broke down, really. I mean, we both did. We were just sobbing. I think the whole reason of telling stories is so we can examine things that we're experiencing in today's world, and you know, connecting with someone else's experience that you see on screen, whether they seem to be someone from a very distant past. When you see them react in a very human way, I think you connect and you empathize in a way that for a moment you think, oh, what would I have done there? Oh, I understand why they did that thing, why they did that very good thing or very bad thing. I think that's something always interesting for audiences. So for this film, I think we see a very relevant portrayal and an examination of what happened. It's, I think, the nuance and honesty that Josie approaches a lot of these topics with comment on where we're at today as society, particularly when it comes to looking at women in power.
Hey guys, here's today's daily fact. Now, the Tin Man's makeup nearly killed him in The Wizard of Oz. That's right, Buddy Ebsen, who played the Tin Man in the classic film, was nearly killed by the aluminum-based makeup he wore for his role. According to his autobiography, he suffered debilitating symptoms including his fingers and toes curling and stiffening and his knees bending the wrong way and an inability to breathe. Now remember to click here below to subscribe or on the side for more great content.